All right. Welcome to this channel. We've been talking about God's agenda for the 21st century. And the 21st century, we're in 2025 and this year we're ending the first quarter of the 21st century. And it's good that we just, take a look backwards and see what has happened. Let's see what has happened. We are currently in the 47 years of the 21st century, and I'm going to tell you something about that. I'm going to tell you something about that. But let's see, if we split this century into sections of 7-year seasons, we are in the 47 years. What happened in the first 7 years? The first 7 years is like a season of let there be light. Let there be light. Within the first 7 years, 2001 to 2007, let there be light. Of course, the kingdom of darkness, through their weight, terrorism, people trying to lord it over others. Terrorism broke out. Terrorists became popular with the hijacking of the plane that destroyed the World Trade Center, Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. That happened. And the war against terrorism also began. But on a positive note, this is when social media was born. Whether it is the Google search engines or it is the Facebook or YouTube, whatever, they all came out of this season so that nothing will be hidden. Because what darkness does is to hide. We were living in a world where you couldn't see the other person. You couldn't see beyond your immediate environment. But Facebook and the other social media platforms came up. And from your part of the world, you can see me. You can see other people because the light has come. The light has come. So this was much of what happened, within the first 7 years was let there be light. Let visibility happen. Let's see who is who. Let's see where they are and all that. So light came to every part of the world, and that's where we can be seen. The wealth in the different parts of the world began to be seen. We began to see ourselves, see people, and we began to connect. Because perhaps before you didn't know I existed, I didn't know you were there. So we didn't know anything because it was a world taken over by darkness. But when God said, let there be light in the first 7 years of the 21st century, light began to come. We started seeing each other or seeing one another. So what happened within the second 7 years of the 21st century? The second 7 years was a time to make a way where there was no way. More females became heads of nations. God began to make a way for women to emerge as heads of nations. But in Africa, in many parts of the world, women began to rise up as heads of nations. God was making a way where there's no way. As these were marginalized people began to, come up. Just like what you read when you look at the second chapters of the Bible. First Samuel chapter 2, it says God, lifts the beggar, the poor from he lifts the beggar from the poor from the dust and the beggar from the ash heap, and makes them to sit among princes and to cause them to inherit the throne of glory, because the pillars of the earth belong to the Lord. That's when the first African American became the president of the United States for the first time, because this season God was making a way where there was no way, manifesting hidden people. creating space. People who had no room began to have room, began to come to the fore, began to take center stage. Those who were, on the sidelines began to take center stage. This is what God did in the second 7 years. The third 7 years was a time to reset the system, the time to reset the platform. The third season is a time to determine the course of the future. That's a time to reset things for the future. So, from 2015 to 2021, our world changed. You want to know why? The third is for change of direction. I remember that somewhere in 2014 I was teaching at a conference, and I said to them, the 7 years following 2014 will change this world. The direction of things will change. It's in the Bible. I knew that from the patterns in the Bible. When you're reading any book of the Bible, from chapter 3, the course of the narrative will change. In Genesis chapter 3, the fall of man happened and changed the course of things. Exodus chapter 3, the voice of God came to Moses and that changed the course of things. In Matthew chapter 3 and Luke chapter 3, a voice came from heaven to Jesus, and that changed the direction of things. In 1 Kings chapter 3, Solomon had an encounter with God, and that changed the direction of his life. 1 Samuel chapter 3, Samuel heard God. God called him and spoke to him, and that changed the direction of the book. In Acts of Apostles chapter 3, they healed a lame man, and that changed the direction of the book. In Esther chapter 3, Haman was promoted and he clashed with Mordecai. That changed the direction of the book. So the third changes the direction. It's in the Bible. So from there we knew that the third 7 years of the 21st century will change things. Change things. Brexit happened. Donald Trump also happened. And then COVID happened. And then we started talking about working from home. The world changed. The third 7 years changed the world. So many things, happen. Then we come to the fourth 7 years of the 21st century. This is the last segment of the first quarter. From 2022 to 2028. This is the fourth 7 years of the 21st century. I'd like to, tell you something about this. In 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Well, I don't want to get into the politics of that. It's like, who started the war? Was it Ukraine or was it Russia? Ukraine was attacking people who said they were on the side of Russia, and Russia said, okay, we're going to invade and all that. Okay, so whether it was Russia or Ukraine that started the war, leave me out of the controversy and debate. But we know that Russia invaded Ukraine in February 2022, and the war continued 23, 2024, into 2025, and Donald Trump is talking about intervening and bringing a ceasefire. But in 2023, Hamas attacked Israel and war broke out. 2023, 2024. Okay, 2025, we're talking about the ceasefire, and releasing of hostages and all that is accompanying that. And we're seeing the fall of leaders, whether in the body of Christ or in the world, in the nations, leaders, the shaking in the nation that is affecting the leadership. Now, what is God's plan for the fourth 7 years? The fourth 7 years has something to do with leadership. In the fourth season, what God does is to cause the leader to emerge. He allows pressures to produce leadership. In the fourth book of the Bible, I use the New King James Version. The first time you read the word, you see the word leader is in the fourth book of the Bible. Leader. And there is no book of the Bible that has as much mention of the word leader as the fourth book of the Bible, if you're using the New King James Version. I think in the Old Testament, about 151 verses. But in the book of Numbers alone, it's mentioned in 54 verses. That's about 1/3 or more than 1/3. Now, and you see leaders tested. This other thing that I like to see that I told you that leaders are produced through pressure. Pressure produces leadership and brings down leaders. So what God is doing is to raise leaders and to bring down leaders. It's in the 4th chapter of Matthew that Jesus began to recruit new leaders. Daniel chapter 4, Nebuchadnezzar was reduced to a beast. So that's what God is doing. It's a place of empowerment. It's a place of the making of leaders. Place of empowerment through pressure. In Matthew chapter 4 and Luke chapter 4, Jesus was tempted. And after the temptation, he went to Galilee in the power of the Holy Spirit. God introduced Moses to his rod in Exodus chapter 4. It's a place of equipment, a place of stretching. In Mark chapter 4, after Jesus calmed the storm, he said to his disciples, "Where is your faith?" Meaning, I expected more from you. The first instruction God gave to Moses in the 4th book of the Bible was, number the people who are with you. Number the people who are with you. And he wasn't talking about just everybody, those who are able to go to war from age 20 and above. Because it's a place we're looking for leaders, we're looking for warriors, so that's what God does in this season. He's looking for warriors, looking for, leaders. So, and this thing is not, it has to happen in the context of pressure. If you want to understand the 4th 7 years of the 21st century, it's important that you read the 4th day of creation narrative when God made the luminaries. And he said to them, you will rule. And the sun rules the day with his heat, with his light and his heat. So that tells us that the 4th season is a spiritual hot season because we won't see heat without the sun. The sun keeps our earth warm, gives us heat. So God uses pressure to bring out the best in people in the 4th season. There was no persecution. Persecution started in Acts chapter 4. Pressure. And when, after they had beaten them, they sent them home, they went and prayed. That's what leaders will do. Others will cry. and say, well, I will not go again. But these leaders, the pressure produced power, produced leadership. So they gathered together and prayed. In the fourth book of the Bible, the children of Israel went through hardship, and God said, I allowed you to suffer hunger that I might bring out what's in your heart. So it's a place of pressure. In Esther chapter 4, Esther said, if I perish, I perish. I'm going to do what I need to do. I need to do what I need to do. So, if you want to understand the first 7 years, you need to read the fourth day of creation narrative. You need to read the 4 chapters of the Bible. You need to read the 4th book of the Bible. You need to read the 7 chapters of the Bible. Any book of the Bible that has 22, from chapter 22 to 28, you need to read that. When you read chapter 22 to 28 of any book of the Bible, you're going to see temptation and stress. When you look at the trials in the house of Abraham, it was in Genesis 22 to 28. The trials in David's life that pushed him out, it was 1 Samuel 22 to 28, are the trials of David. In Matthew, the trials of Jesus, 22 to 28, Matthew. In Acts of Apostles, the trials of Paul, Acts 22 to 28. So you see, that tells you that 2022 to 2028 is a spiritual hot season. It's a season of trials. It's a season of, God's will is for his people to emerge strong. What the enemy wants is to cause stumbling. Now, the last place you need to read to understand the first 7 years is to read the first 7 books of the Bible. The first 7 books of the Bible are Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Hosea. These are major prophetic books. And you could see the shaking in these books. You could see the forced relocation, all kinds of things going on. So this is where we are as in our century. We are no longer in the first 7 years. We are not in the second 7 years. We are now in the fourth 7 years of the 21st century. And this is where we need to be. Well, thank you for watching and listening. I hope that I'm going to, perhaps do another video that is going to help you to understand the fourth 7 years of the 21st century and what you need to do. What kind of believer do you need to be? What do you need to know about this season, and how should we live in this season? Yes, till we get to the other video, thank you for watching at this point. God bless you.